He couldn't protect his family from it. The priest saw it with his own eyes, and the judge had no idea what to do, because the evidence was impossible. This is the story of a marriage destroyed by something science couldn't explain and the law couldn't ignore.
In January 2017, an Italian judge, Dotessa Anna Cataneo of the Tribunale di Milano, was asked to rule on a divorce petition that defied the laws of physics. Not adultery, not abuse, but levitation. If it was rejected, one person would be trapped in a marriage the law refused to end. In Italy, you can't just walk away from a marriage because you want to. You need grounds, legal reasons, proof that the marriage has irretrievably broken down. Infidelity works, abuse works, abandonment works. But this? When that incident landed in a Milanese divorce court, it sparked a legal battle that split the church, the medical community, and a family forever. With 7 witnesses, 2 Catholic priests and a monk ready to testify under oath, the court had to decide. Does the law exist in a world where science fails? This isn't a ghost story. It's a legal case, documented, verified, and real. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why what happened in that courtroom should terrify anyone who thinks the law can answer every question. If you're ready for one of the strangest divorce cases in modern European history, you're in the right place. Let me start with the moment that changed everything. Sunday morning, a small church on the outskirts of Milan. Mass has just ended. Antonio's wife, we'll call her Maria to protect her identity, is kneeling in prayer. She's been there for over an hour. Antonio is waiting by the door with their 2 children. The priest approaches her, gently touches her shoulder. "Signora, we need to close the church." No response. He touches her again. This time, her body goes rigid. And then, according to 3 people who were present that morning, including the priest himself, Maria stood up, turned to face a wooden pew, and lifted it with one hand. Not dragged it, not pushed it, lifted it. A solid oak pew that typically requires 3 grown men to move. She held it above her head and hurled it across the altar. The sound echoed through the church like a gunshot. Then she collapsed. When paramedics arrived, her vital signs were normal. No injuries, no drugs in her system, no explanation. And Antonio, standing in the doorway with his children, knew in that moment his marriage was over. Not because he stopped loving her, but because he no longer knew what she was. Antonio and Maria met when they were 22. They married 3 years later in the same church where, 15 years later, that pew would fly across the altar. By all accounts, they were happy. 2 children, a modest home, both practicing Catholics, attending Mass weekly. But about 5 years into the marriage, something changed. Maria became consumed by her faith. Not just devoted, consumed. She started spending hours in prayer every night. She reported seeing visions, angels, saints, battles between good and evil. At first, Antonio thought it was a phase. Maybe stress. Maybe she needed to talk to someone. He suggested therapy. She refused. She said therapy was for people with problems. She didn't have problems. She had been chosen. Chosen for what? Antonio asked. To fight, she said. The episodes started small. She'd wake up in the middle of the night, rigid, eyes rolled back, muttering in what Antonio described as languages I'd never heard. Then one night he woke up and she wasn't in bed. He found her in the living room, standing completely still, 3 feet off the ground. Or at least, that's what he told the court he saw. For 2 full seconds, he said, she hung in the air. Then she dropped to the floor, unconscious. He called an ambulance. The doctors found nothing wrong. No epilepsy, no seizures, no medical explanation. And Maria smiled when she woke up. I was with them, she said. The angels. They lifted me up. Antonio didn't sleep that night, or the night after, because he had a terrible thought. What if she's right? But what Antonio told the court next would haunt the judge for years. Because the levitation? That wasn't the worst of it. What happened to their children? That's what forced him to act. And what he discovered when he installed hidden cameras in their home. Even the priests said they'd never seen anything like it. Antonio installed cameras because he needed proof. Not for a divorce, not yet. He needed proof for himself, to know he wasn't losing his mind. What those cameras captured over 3 months became the backbone of his divorce case. Night 1. Maria enters the children's room at 2:47 a.m. She stands at the foot of their beds, doesn't move, just watches them. For 43 minutes. Night 7. She's in the kitchen. The cabinets open and close, by themselves, or so it appears on camera. Maria is standing in the center of the room, arms outstretched, speaking words the audio can't quite capture. Night 15. This is the one Antonio's lawyer would later call Exhibit A. Maria is in the living room. Her body rises, whether through jumping, levitation, or some kind of seizure. Experts would later disagree. But she appears to hover, suspended, for nearly 4 seconds. Then she falls. Hard. The sound wakes Antonio. He runs downstairs. She's on the floor, bleeding from her forehead. I was with them again, she whispers. They're coming soon. Who's coming? Antonio asks. The ones who need to be fought. The hospital stitched her head. The psychiatric evaluation found no acute psychosis, no schizophrenia, no clear diagnosis. The doctor's report said, patient exhibits unusual behavior patterns inconsistent with known psychiatric conditions. Recommend ongoing observation. But Antonio couldn't keep observing. Because Maria started talking to the children about the fight. She told their 8-year-old daughter that she might need to help with the battle. She told their 6-year-old son that the demons are close but we're protected. And one night, Antonio came home to find Maria teaching their daughter how to resist possession. That's when he called his lawyer. The lawyer asked Antonio a question that would become central to the entire case. Do you believe your wife is possessed? Antonio paused for a long time, and then he gave an answer that no one expected. An answer that would split the courtroom and might split you watching this right now. Before Antonio could file for divorce, he needed to do something he'd been avoiding. He needed to talk to the church. Not just any priest. The same priest who'd been present during the church pew incident. We'll call him Father Vincenzo. Father Vincenzo had been a priest for 32 years. He'd conducted 2 exorcisms in his career, both officially sanctioned by the Vatican. He knew the protocols. He knew the signs. He knew the difference between mental illness and demonic activity. And when Antonio came to him, Father Vincenzo said something that terrified him. I've seen things in my life that I can't explain through science. Your wife, she's experiencing something beyond normal human experience. Whether it's divine, whether it's psychological, whether it's something else, I genuinely don't know. But I do know this. What I saw in that church that morning wasn't natural. The pew she threw weighs over 200 pounds. I needed 4 men to move it back into place. she's not a large woman. She lifted it like it was empty. Father Vincenzo performed a blessing on Maria, not an exorcism. The church requires months of evaluation and approval from a bishop for that. Just a blessing. Prayers for protection. Maria screamed through the entire 30-minute ceremony, and according to Father Vincenzo's report to the diocese, a report that was later submitted as evidence in the divorce trial, when he placed the rosary around her neck, her skin reacted. Red marks appeared where the beads touched her. Not burns, not an allergic reaction, just marks. That disappeared within an hour. Dermatologists couldn't explain it. Allergists found no sensitivity to metal or materials. And Father Vincenzo told Antonio, "I can pray for your wife, but I can't make her well. Only God can do that, or doctors, or time. I don't know which one she needs, but I do know this. You need to protect your children." So, Antonio filed for divorce, and that's when the case took a turn that no one, not his lawyer, not the judge, not even Antonio himself, saw coming, because Maria didn't fight it. In fact, she did something that would become the most controversial part of the entire trial. She admitted everything. Every single claim Antonio made, every witness statement, every bizarre incident. She confirmed it all. And then she said something that stunned the courtroom. Something that made the judge realize this case would set a precedent that could change Italian family law forever. The courtroom was packed. Word had spread through Milan's legal community. There was a divorce trial unlike any other. Journalists tried to get in. The judge banned cameras. What happened in that courtroom would be reconstructed from official transcripts and interviews with people who were there. Antonio testified first. For 6 hours, across 2 days, he walked the court through everything we've just described. The levitation, the cameras, the church pew, the priest, the children. Maria's lawyer cross-examined him for 3 hours. "Mr. Antonio, you claim to have seen your wife levitate. Do you believe in the supernatural?" "I don't know what I believe anymore." "Do you think your wife is possessed by demons?" And here's what Antonio said, the answer that would define the entire case. "I don't think my wife is possessed. I think my wife is sick. I think she's experiencing something that doctors can't explain and that I can't understand, but I can't live with it anymore. I can't subject my children to it. I love my wife, but I can't be married to someone I'm afraid of." Then Maria took the stand. And this is where everything changed. Maria's lawyer asked, "Mrs. Maria, your husband claims you exhibit supernatural behavior. Is this true?" "Yes." "Do you believe you levitate?" "I don't believe it. I know it. I've experienced it." "Do you believe you're possessed?" "No. I believe I've been chosen." "Chosen by who?" "By God, to fight a spiritual war that most people don't see." The courtroom went silent. The judge leaned forward. "Mrs. Maria, do you understand that these statements could affect the court's determination about custody of your children?" Maria looked directly at him. "Your Honor, I understand. But I will not lie about what I've experienced. My husband doesn't understand. The doctors don't understand. But I know what's real, and I'm not afraid of it." Antonio later told his lawyer, "That's when I knew we'd lost her completely." The judge ordered a psychiatric evaluation, 3 separate experts. What they found was so unusual, so unprecedented, that 2 of them initially refused to sign their reports. Because the tests showed something that shouldn't have been possible, something that made even skeptics question what they believed about the human mind. Let's be clear about something. People do not levitate. Physics doesn't allow it. Gravity doesn't suspend itself for religious experience. But the human brain can create experiences so real, so vivid, The trained observers believe they've witnessed the impossible. A neuropsychiatrist from Milan University, let's call her Dr. Alessandra Romani, examined Maria over 6 sessions. Her findings: no schizophrenia, no psychosis, no dissociative identity disorder, no epilepsy, no brain tumors, no chemical imbalances. Every standard test came back normal. But Dr. Romani noted something unusual in Maria's EEG patterns during prayer. When Maria entered what she called her state of connection, her brain activity showed patterns consistent with both deep meditation and intense seizure-like activity simultaneously. Dr. Romani wrote in her report, "This combination should not be possible. Meditation suppresses certain brain regions, seizures activate them. Patient exhibits both states at once." The second psychiatrist, Dr. Marco Benedetti, was more skeptical. He believed Maria was experiencing a severe but undiagnosed dissociative disorder, that her brain was creating these experiences as a response to trauma or stress that she wouldn't or couldn't acknowledge. He noted that many religious mystics throughout history showed similar patterns. Saint Teresa of Avila, Hildegard von Bingen, Joan of Arc. Were they all mentally ill or experiencing something that medicine doesn't have language for? The third expert, Dr. Sofia Mantovani, a specialist in religious psychology, offered a third possibility. We may be witnessing a rare case of genuine religious experience filtered through neurological anomaly. The brain experiencing states that we don't have scientific framework for yet. Not illness, not delusion, something else. But here's what all 3 agreed on. Maria was not dangerous to herself or others. She was not psychotic, she was not incompetent. And under Italian law, that created a massive problem for Antonio's case. The judge deliberated for 3 weeks. This was unprecedented. Most divorce cases in Italy are decided within days if there's clear evidence of breakdown. But this case, nothing was clear. Judge Cataneo had been on the bench for 19 years. She'd handled thousands of divorces, custody battles, domestic violence, infidelity. She'd never handled anything like this. Because here's the legal problem. Maria wasn't abusive. She wasn't dangerous. She wasn't incompetent. Medical experts couldn't diagnose her with anything that would justify removing custody or declaring her unfit. But Antonio couldn't stay married to her. And legally, he needed grounds beyond, "I'm afraid of my wife's religious experiences." January 18, 2017. The final hearing. Judge Cataneo entered. Everyone stood. She didn't waste time.
Tenendo in nome del popolo italiano.
After careful review of testimony, medical evidence, and witness statements, this court makes the following findings. Mrs. Maria exhibits behavior that, while unexplained by medical science, is not attributable to voluntary action or malicious intent. The behaviors described by witnesses, including the incident at the church, cannot be explained through conventional medical diagnosis. However, this court also finds that the behavior, regardless of origin, has created an environment in which normal marital relations cannot continue. Mr. Antonio has demonstrated that he lives in constant fear and anxiety. That fear, whether rational or not, is real and documented. A marriage cannot function when one spouse fears the other, even if that fear is based on events that neither party can control or explain. Therefore, this court grants the petition for divorce on grounds of irretrievable breakdown of marriage. However, this court finds no evidence that Mrs. Maria poses danger to her children. The behaviors, while unusual, have never resulted in harm to the minor children. Custody shall be joint with primary residence with Mr. Antonio. Mrs. Maria shall have supervised visitation until such time as medical professionals determine appropriate. The gavel fell. After 15 years of marriage, it was over. Not because anyone could prove what really happened, but because the marriage had become impossible to sustain. Antonio left through the back exit. Maria left through the front. Surrounded by supporters from her church community, they never spoke again. So, what actually happened to Maria? The truth is, we still don't know. Italian privacy laws sealed divorce records. The family's identities were protected. Updates are scarce. What we know from legal scholars who studied the case, the children remained primarily with Antonio. Maria continued supervised visitation. No reports of further incidents during those visits. Father Vincenzo, the priest who witnessed the church pew incident, retired from active ministry in 2019. In a rare interview with an Italian Catholic magazine, he said, "I've spent 40 years trying to understand the line between divine intervention and human psychology. I still don't know where that line is. Maybe there isn't one. Maybe they're the same thing, expressed differently. All I know is what I saw, and what I saw was real to me." The case became a teaching example in Italian law schools, not about supernatural phenomena, but about how courts handle situations where scientific evidence is absent and competing realities collide. Because that's what this case really was. Two realities that couldn't coexist. Maria's reality, she was experiencing divine contact, chosen for spiritual warfare. The events were real and sacred. Antonio's reality, his wife was experiencing something he couldn't understand, couldn't help with, and couldn't live with. Both realities were true to the people experiencing them, but only one could survive in a marriage. And the law? The law did what it always does when faced with the unexplainable. It focused on what it could measure: fear, breakdown, impossibility of cohabitation. Not whether Maria actually levitated, but whether Antonio could reasonably be expected to remain married while believing she did. The real tragedy of this case isn't the supernatural claims. It's simpler than that. Two people who once loved each other became strangers. Their shared reality fractured, and no judge, no doctor, no priest could put it back together. Whether Maria experienced divine contact or neurological anomaly doesn't change that fundamental truth. Their marriage ended not because one of them was wrong, but because they could no longer agree on what was real. This case raises questions that go beyond one marriage in Milan. What happens when science can't explain behavior? When religious experience and medical diagnosis occupy the same space? When witnesses see the impossible? The law had to find an answer. And the answer it found was, it doesn't matter what's objectively true. What matters is whether two people can live with their different versions of truth. So let me ask you, after hearing this story, do you think the court made the right decision? Should Antonio have stayed and supported his wife through whatever she was experiencing? Or was he right to protect himself and his children from something he couldn't understand? There's no easy answer. That's what makes this case so haunting. If you found this case as fascinating and disturbing as I did, subscribe to this channel. We cover real legal cases that challenge everything you think you know about justice, truth, and human behavior. What do you think really happened to Maria? Medical condition? Religious experience? Or something we don't have words for yet? This was the story of the levitating wife. The marriage that ended not with infidelity or abuse, but with a reality neither person could share anymore. Thanks for watching. And remember, sometimes the truth is whatever we can agree on, until we can't agree anymore.